Have you ever wondered what is the most likely reason humanity might go extinct? There are a lot of movies about this topic. All of them give us a few different causes for our demise. Some of them are a bit more realistic than others. There are three most likely scenarios, all of them belonging to a different category. These categories are nature, space, and the mind. Let's go through all of them one by one and see the results. The nature. Along with being vital for our existence, nature is also always trying to kill us. Storms, earthquakes, floods, tsunamis, just to name a few. And while all of those natural disasters can cause devastation to us, one of them can do a lot more than devastating us. I'm talking about volcanoes. Those mountains that spit molten rocks, that's the one. Even though we've been to the moon and back, we're still fragile beings. If a big enough volcano erupts and covers the sky for years, we won't be able to grow a lot of food. So, a lot of people will die. You might think that no volcano can erupt so dramatically that it will cover the sky in dust for years. That's impossible, right? I wish that was true. That way, I'd have one fewer reason to keep me up at night. But let's introduce you to the Mount Tambora. On April 5th, 1815, the largest mountain in Indonesia started to erupt. 5 days later, the whole Earth knew that something bad was going on. And the reason they knew it was because the ash and dust from Mount Tambora were forced to go all around the Earth and visit every part of the planet. There was a lot of ash distributed into the atmosphere, and it started to absorb and divert the sunlight away from the Earth. The Earth got 1 degree cooler than it was before. That year in the history of the world is remembered as the year without summer. And try to guess why that was. Food shortages, crop failures, unnatural flooding are just a few things that were the results of Mount Tambora erupting. That was just 200 years ago, back when the Napoleon was still kicking Europe's ass, and the United States was still trying to make itself a fully fledged republic. That's not that much time. Mount Tambora eruption didn't wipe us out, but it did make our lives much harder. So, what do we need for a full extinction of humanity caused by a volcano? As the iconic saying goes, we're going to need a bigger volcano, and unfortunately for us, we've got plenty of those. I'd do you a disservice if I didn't talk about the biggest volcano on Earth that is asleep, but can for one reason or another wake up and make all of us go to sleep. Of course, we're talking about the Yellowstone Volcano, deep within North America. I'd waste a lot of time if I theorized how an eruption from the Yellowstone could do a lot of harm. But I won't do that. Instead, let me give you a comparison. When Mount Tambora erupted, it shot 36 cubic miles of ash into the atmosphere. Just think about that for a second. 36 cubic miles of ash caused a year without summer and food shortages for the following decade or two, along with many other terrible things. Well, imagine what would happen if Yellowstone was to erupt. The potential of Yellowstone ranges from 240 to 600 cubic miles of ash eruption. On the low end, that eruption can wipe out 99% of humanity, and you can get the idea of what would happen on a high-end eruption. The eruption of Yellowstone is still unlikely and hasn't happened ever. But what has happened is much more devastating. About 74,000 years ago, on an island of Sumatra, a volcano named Tambora erupted. This eruption was the biggest for the past 2 million years. Do you want to know the amount of ash that it shot up in the atmosphere? 670 cubic miles of ash. So, there is more than one potential volcano on Earth that can erupt and make us go extinct. Now imagine if not just one, but a few of the biggest volcanoes erupt at the same time. The only survivor of such an event would be Elon Musk, and that's only in case he's on Mars at that point. The space. What can be more devastating than a giant mountain detonating itself to kill us all? Well, let me introduce you to the space rocks, or some would like to call them asteroids. You've probably seen the movie Armageddon. That's a disaster movie for a good reason. If Bruce Willis didn't do his job, not just humanity, but likely every single living organism would perish with us. Just a few days ago, NASA sent an asteroid-diverting satellite into space to force a duo of asteroids to change their course. So, the movie Armageddon is closer to reality than you might imagine. The bigger of two asteroids is about 700 meters in diameter. That wouldn't necessarily kill us all, but it would do a lot of damage. Just the diameter of one asteroid's immediate impact and subsequent fallout would be the size of the state of Louisiana, as you can see here. Just like any good volcano, an asteroid won't stop with just heat and powerful earthquake. Depending on where it lands, even that relatively small asteroid can shoot a lot of ash into the atmosphere, resulting in another year or potentially years without summer. Since we don't have any recent event, not so recent examples of what would happen if a giant asteroid hit Earth, we need to go a lot further into the past. Before there were any humans, the Earth was ruled by the dinosaurs. The most accepted and the most fun theory of how they went extinct was the theory of an asteroid hitting somewhere in North America. Since the potential asteroid wiped out the dominant species back then, let's use it as an example. It is estimated that an asteroid which killed the dinosaurs was somewhere between 10 and 15 kilometers in diameter. Let's go with the low end and say that the asteroid that is coming to get us is 10 kilometers in diameter. That's about the size of Manhattan. And as you can see, that type of asteroid hitting even the remotest of locations on Earth would have a massive impact on every part of the planet. If the asteroid hits the water, and depending on which body of water it hits, the water will either fully evaporate, creating the setup for the longest period of time while raining, or it can create the biggest tsunami in recorded history. Not only that, the sheer amount of force coming in contact with the Earth's surface can awake one or more volcanoes, which, as you already know, is not a good thing even on its own. There is still a chance that some people might survive for a while after that potential asteroid hits the Earth, especially if they are on a directly opposite side of the Earth when the asteroid hits. And if they have a bunker deep enough into the Earth, they just might survive. But even then, the chances of humanity regaining its control over the planet after such a disaster would be minuscule. The mind. Until we have direct evidence of any other extraterrestrial beings that have minds similar to our own and are capable of the level of thinking that we are, we will be the smartest beings in the universe. And as with everything else, being smart has its upsides and downsides. You can create a weapon that guarantees that a conflict won't be as devastating as they once were. But on the other hand, that same weapon has the potential to make humanity go extinct. Since its invention, the nuclear bomb has been used in warfare only 2 times, both of those times on Japan. That happened in 1945. Since then, both the size and the effectiveness of those bombs became much greater. You might agree or disagree with me on this one, but in my opinion, if anything is to wipe us out and make us the next dinosaurs, that would be us. A giant asteroid hitting the Earth is highly improbable due to the circumstances we are in. The same thing applies to giant volcanoes. They can erupt, but likelihood of that is very low. But a chance of a World War III, that will be the war to end all wars by using the greatest weapon anybody has ever seen, well, there is a lot more chance of that happening than you realize. See, on its own, even the biggest START nuclear bomb doesn't do that much damage, at least compared to an asteroid or a volcano. As you can see with your eyes, the detonation of the biggest nuclear bomb will be devastating, but nowhere near devastating enough to make humanity go extinct. However, here is where the ace in humanity's sleeves comes into play. Even just one giant asteroid hitting the Earth is very unlikely. Imagine how unlikely it would be if 2 or 3 or more asteroids hit us all at once. Same thing with volcanoes. One giant volcano erupting is already unlikely. Imagine a few of those. But do you know how many nuclear bombs we have? Well, combined, at the very least, 20,000. 20,000 nuclear bombs, many of them having the ability to kill anything within quite a large range. Think about that. All of those nuclear bombs detonated for one reason or another. We even have a name for such an event: mutually assured destruction. That means that if, let's say, France got out of the control and launched a nuclear missile to Moscow, even without anyone doing anything, Moscow would retaliate with as much force as possible. Then when the US sees what's going on, it would retaliate as well. Then China would come into play, and so on and so on. And to make you a bit less nervous, it doesn't have to be war that this event takes place. One malfunction in one of the facilities which houses the nuclear bomb can lead to our extinction. Conclusion: that's what I think. Out of all possible scenarios, mutually assured destruction might be the single biggest threat to all of the humankind. I want to know, what do you think? I would also theorize some sort of a virus that could potentially kill us all. But a single virus has a very little chance of killing all humanity. Consider liking and subscribing if you liked the video. Thank you for watching, and we will meet in the next one. Until then, sleep well.